We are Shooting Star Studios, and we have been working with the Norfolk Museums and Archaeology Service to find out more about the Second World War.
Some of us have lived here in Kingston for the majority of our lives, and some of us have moved here only recently. But none of us could imagine what life must have been like during the 1940s.
We wanted to know about the period of history and how it affected the lives of those in the community.
We prepared some key questions and interviewed local residents. We didn't imagine we would hear so many fascinating stories and memories, from air raids to evacuees, bomb disposal, American GIs, and life on the home front. We learnt a huge amount and heard many funny, sad, and often inspiring tales of life during World War II.
We hope that through this film you enjoy hearing about these stories as much as we have enjoyed collecting and dramatising them.
Good morning, Vera. Can you just tell us how old you were when you were in the war?
I was 11.
I was only 6.
I was just turned 5. I was living in the centre of London with my parents.
I was a diver, and of course in the Marines you were very versatile, and I did bomb and mine disposal.
I was 6.5 when the war started and 12 when it finished.
Do you remember the day the war started?
My grandparents and my father were huddled round the radio. The King made a broadcast, as did the Prime Minister.
As from 11 a.m. this morning, no troops have been withdrawn from Poland. We are at war with Germany.
Everybody was in panic stage. You know, everybody was getting ready. You was a bit young to know what was going on, but you could sense it all. You didn't really fully understand the meaning of war, but you soon had to learn pretty quick.
Well, I was with my dad in the garden, and he said he hoped we wouldn't see a war because he went through the First World War. That was a terrible war.
On that particular day, which was a Sunday, my grandfather, he always took me to the park. And we started off to go to the park, and the air raid sirens went. I didn't know what air raid sirens were, but he made an excuse that he'd forgotten his box of matches and he couldn't light his cigarettes, and we'd have to go back home and get the matches. And we never did go to the park, because that was the very first air raid warning in London.
You got rationing on, hadn't you? You got food rationing on. You could probably get a bit on black market. Most of them there was no food.
We only had, I think it was 2 ounces of butter and cheese.
I mean, it was a great treat to have a boiled egg. Remember, at times we got 1 egg per week.
The whole family had 4 ounces, that's about 100 grams of meat per week.
And quite often there would be no meat and they'd give you whale meat. I don't know if you've ever tried that, but by God, I couldn't eat that.
Well, I was rather lucky because my grandparents who brought me up were shopkeepers, and so rations were a little bit easier for us than for some of the other people. Any coupons that were not used, they would just tell my grandfather to take the coupons out of their book and throw them away. I would fish a few of them out of the bin, the sweet coupons only, and then at the grammar school where they had a tuck shop, I would start standing near the queue there and sell them off at 6p. And that made me a very young but very able spiv.
People think we starved, but we didn't starve.
We had a garden with plenty of fruit and veg, So we really had plenty of healthy food.
And mothers would make do and mend.
It was the days of darning and sewing.
I used to be the dressmaker of the family, make clothes. I had my sister's dresses and myself.
You had clothing coupons to go and buy clothes, but again, they were few and far between. Everything was just recycled.
So, do you remember much about the soldiers?
We did see a lot of soldiers, particularly when America came into the war.
And of course we had a lot of airmen. Remember, there was airfields all around King's Lynn. Lots of young ladies of your age fell in love with American servicemen, and funny enough, they are our allies and our good friends, but if a young girl went with a American airman, she was looked upon, oh no, she's gone off with a Yank, you know, and that wasn't good.
The phrase you've heard many, many times, that they were oversexed, overpaid and over here. And that was a phrase that was used many, many times.
When we used to go visit my granddad and granny in King's Lynn, they would be on the cut bridges when we came home. Who goes there, they used to say. But they were stationed around here. Never went out with one.
Whoa, wait. Look.
Hey, ladies.
Certainly to teenage girls, they looked very glamorous because they were handsome young men, beautifully turned out, with plenty of money, and they all seemed to have pockets full of nylon stockings, which obviously impressed young girls.
They were film stars to them.
There was a lot of friction between the English troops and the American forces who came in here.
What made us mad, all the British forces, they had got this drab khaki, just like sacking, you see, but it was tough stuff. And the Yanks, they got smooth, you know, ties on, good cloth, and ours were walking up and down with these sacking stuff.
Watch yourself. Don't talk to me like that.
They were all right. On the whole, they were good, generous.
We found them polite and, in the main, very nice.
We wouldn't have won that last war if that meant for the Yanks. No way.
Got some tea, girls?
No, let me. Lizzie, I've got some amazing news. What? Your husband sent his first telegram. Go on, open it.
I think I should read this on my own.
No, read it out.
Okay. Dear sweet Lizzie, fighting has been on and off. We are keeping our morales up by thinking of our loved ones and friends at home. I wish I could be with you and meet our blessed baby when it's born. I do hope he gets to see him. Here you go. And when he went, hello ma'am.
What are you laughing at?
Was I miss at work?
And they're not work.
We just met the most dashing American soldiers over by the cut bridges.
You shouldn't trust those Americans. They're oversexed, overpaid, and over here.
What are you chewing?
Gum.
What's gum?
The Americans gave it to us.
What else do they have?
They had stockings.
What are they like?
They have the most amazing uniform.
And very tall.
Very dark and very handsome.
What would your Jack say if he knew how you were behaving?
Well, Jack's not here, is he?
Isn't that all the more reason for you to stay faithful to him?
Look, I'm not being unfaithful. I'm just going for a drink tonight with Frank and Harry, and I'm guessing you don't want to come.
Well...
Come on, let's go paint your stockings on.
We want to come too.
What did you like about Churchill?
He kept us going. He was our great hero. He was the top man.
He is the only man who could stand up and make you listen.
And because you mustn't speak when Winston Churchill was on the radio, you sat there and you kept quiet because your parents would be like this, listening to every word.
He was very hard with his decisions and things like that.
You know, some people hate him because there's thousands of lives was on his conscience, I presume. I don't know, he couldn't have had a conscience, I don't know. Because he made the decision.
He was the right person in the right place at the right time. And I think the country, even now, owes him a great deal for being the figurehead that got England through the war.
What was your impressions of the Germans and the Nazis?
Well, the Nazis was different than the German civilians. We were stuck in Kiel, in the docks there, and when we went on these boats, you one section of Marines and the corporal took it over, turfed the German crew off, and this little old German girl come with a big egg, and I went down the gangplank and got it off her, and I put it in a frying pan and it filled it up like that. It was a big, what sort of egg it was, I don't know, but what I'm saying is that old lady come every day, and I give her a loaf of bread every day.
Most of the people who fought in there were just normal, decent people like the English people and the Americans and Canadians and whatnot who fought against them.
Do any of you know where Bishop's Road is? Yeah. Well, at the end, getting towards the end of the war, they were all fields when I was a boy, and all woods and that. And they started to put new roads in there. And they brought all German prisoners of war to actually build them. And of course, we'd got to go and see these terrible individuals who was trying to kill us. And because I got friendly with one whose English was very good. And my mother used to make some cakes sometimes, like scones or something. And I took him a couple one day and I said, can I have a couple? And I gave him to these scones. The next time I went, he had a toy he'd made for me. You know, he made it with a penknife. So we suddenly realised that these Germans were like us, they were human beings. Otherwise, we thought they were terrible people.
Daisy, Daisy, give me a hand to do.
I'm half crazy over the love of you. It won't be a stylish marriage, I can't afford the carriage, but you'll look sweet upon the seat of a bicycle made for two. Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer too. I'm half crazy over the love of you. It won't be a stylish marriage, I can't afford the carriage, but you'll look sweet upon the seat of a bicycle made for two. But you'll look sweet upon the seat of a bicycle made for two.
It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine.
Did you have a shelter?
Well, we didn't have one, but a lady opposite, she had one in her house. She had a nervous breakdown, so we used to go across and keep her company. And us 4 children used to sit in the shelter while they sat and had a cup of tea. My aunt and this lady.
Dad decided, you know, when I got so that I was getting a bit naughty, we didn't know what was going to happen. He dug a shelter down the bottom of the garden.
There was the Anderson shelter, which was built in the back garden where a hole was dug, and then it was covered over with semicircular corrugated iron and then covered with as much soil as you could get on top. But we had what was known as a Morrison shelter. Now this was indoors.
Then we had those shelters in the house, steel, like a big cage, and we used it as a table.
And of course, as mums did in those days, the first things they did was put a tablecloth on top of it and a bunch of flowers to make it look like a nice piece of furniture.
And we put a mattress inside and you had wire all the way around it, and you went in there to sleep. We slept, my brother and I slept in there night after night after night.
We stopped using the shelter, right? Table. Mother turned around and said, I've had enough, I've had enough. What's the matter, Mum? We're staying in bed. If your number's on, no, your number's on no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, so we stayed in bed.
How often did the sirens go off during the war?
During 1941 and 1942, when most of the bombs that fell in this area came down, it was fairly often. It was a frightening thing, the siren. It had this weird wailing sound which didn't inspire confidence, and probably that was the reason it had that kind of note.
We called them Wailing Minnie, when the siren, they go Wailing Minnie. We were sort of brainwashed in what we must do, and you know, when the siren went, it was, you know, where, you know, you see it on the television, but to actually live through bombing is scary.
What did you find difficult about the blackout?
Well, everything was black. You know, it was very, very strict. Blackout, you know, you never had any lights in your bedroom. Any room that you had a light in had to be blacked out and used the solid, disgusting black material.
I used to work here